been so long since we sang this one.
Yeah.
If I go wrong somewhere, Shamla, you must have to come and
All verses?
611.
All verses?
We'll do verse 1, 3, and 4. We'll do 1, 2, and 4. 3, 2, 7, the old rugged cross. It's just not a Good Friday hymn, it's a great hymn to sing. Sometimes just, if you know the words of the song, especially the chorus part of it, if you just want to close your eyes and just worship God, even though we're just calling out the numbers, I want it to be just worshipful for you. And that's my desire. Because sometimes all these hymns are written not just so that we can sing, but that we can worship. On a hill far away stood an old rugged cross, the animal suffering her shame, and a came down loudly. illumine my ears, illumine my eyes, and illumine my heart. God, it's a hard one to talk about this morning. I pray that you would lead us and guide us as we do this. Bless our time together, O God. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen. Please be seated. I just want to let you know, as a disclaimer, I don't want to defend Jesus today. Because Jesus says something that's kind of shocking, isn't it? He says, use your dishonest well. Right? And he commended the dishonest manager. And oftentimes as preachers, and especially as seminarians, we defend Jesus. Today, this morning, I don't want to defend Jesus. I just wanted to offer some things that might make sense to you. Just bear with me as I do this together. I just want to talk about, not all of them, but most of them. Most of the people who are owners during Jesus' time always let somebody else manage their property. Probably because they were traveling. Because Jesus told parables, isn't it? Like a man who travels gave away his talents, is that right? So probably they let other people manage their property, like the way some of you do. Is that right? You are here and you have a property back in India. You let somebody else manage that property for you. So during Jesus' time, many of them did that. So owners had properties and they let somebody else manage it for them. They also expected maximum return out of the investment that they are making. Again, simple. For example, if you have a home in India, and if somebody comes to rent your home, and they say to them, they look at the house, they go around looking at the house, and they say, this place looks nice. I'm going to pay 10,000 rupees for this property, for a rent. Now, along the way, somebody else comes and says, no, I'll pay you 15. Obviously, you will go with the 15, isn't it? Why would you want to go with that? So, when the owners gave the properties to their stewards, they expected maximum return out of it. Who doesn't want more money? Is it right? And again, oftentimes, the owners they never cared how the stewards made the money. Am I making sense? They really didn't care. Because they gave the property to them, whatever they did with them, as long as the money comes into your bank account, they were okay. These are some, not all of them. Remember, when I'm saying this story, I'm not wanting to throw a blanket statement on owners. During Jesus' time, there were good people too. But there were people most of the time where did things that were not right. And so, those are the owners that we have. Sometimes you have to look at the people who are managing them. And in Greek, it's the word steward or the oikos, the guy who takes care of your house. That's where we get the word economics, oikonomics. One who takes care of the word. So the steward, there are some things about stewards. Not all stewards were good. Some of them were engaged in unscrupulous activities. They would make investments that were not right. So not all of them were good. They would, because they want to make money, because they can give it to their master. So they engaged in unscrupulous activities. Good stewards were hard to come by. Very few who were good stewards. Most of them had their own money. Sometimes what happens is, if there was a bad owner, it kind of reflected on the bad steward. Because if the owner wanted more money, and if they want to make money and do it in any way possible, they would do it. So sometimes it depends on the owners, and the stewards turned out that way. And seldom stewards stood up against their evil owners. Making sense? Seldom will they stand up and say, no, what you're asking me to do is wrong. Very seldom. Remember the story that Jesus told. There was a man who went on a journey and he took how many talents? You know the story. Help me out. How many talents? 5. And he gave it to the guy, right? 5. And the guy went and invested and made 5 more. And then what? Next one is what? How many talents? 2. So he gave it to the 2 and he said, so the guy who took 2 and he went out and invested. Made 2 more. Is that right? And the guy who invested 1, what did he do? Tuck it to the hole. Is that right? Now oftentimes we tell this story and we praise the guy who made 5 talents, isn't it? Am I making sense? The 5 talent was praised, the 2 talents was praised, but the guy who made the 1 talent was rebuked. Isn't it? But actually, when Jesus is telling that story, he has a wink in his eye. The reason why I say that is because in that actual story, the guy with the 1 talent is actually the hero. The reason why is he stood up to the master who was actually evil. Because during Jesus' time, many of those owners wanted their stewards to engage in activities so that they can get enough profit. They didn't really care. So when Jesus tells that story, the guys who made 5 more engaged in unscrupulous activities and made some more money. The guy who gave the 1 talent knew the master's heart and he said, hey, you were a wicked guy, isn't it? So Jesus, when he tells that story, he has a wink in his eye because actually in that story, the guy with the 1 talent is the hero because he's the guy who stood up to the wicked master. So very seldom were stewards they were always engaged in unscrupulous activities. So today, in this story, Jesus tells a very simple story. Usually what happens is always there is a context. When that context is painted, Jesus will tell the story. For example, last week I told the story, is that right? There were sinners and Pharisees who were sitting down there, and the scripture says that sinners and the bad guys, the tax collectors, were all coming closer to listen to Jesus, while the Pharisees were scorning at him. Isn't that? That's what it said. In that context, Jesus immediately begins to tell the story of the lost coin and the lost sheep. And then he goes on with the story of the lost son. Is that right? Now, this story that I read to you comes with no context. There is no context. Nobody is asking him any questions, and suddenly Jesus tells this story. Which means we don't know why he tells that story. But let me tell you one thing. In Luke's gospel, Luke has a problem with money. He doesn't have a problem with rich people. Oftentimes we read Luke's gospel and we think Jesus in Luke had a problem with rich people. No. Several years ago, they did an archaeology, right? They went to the Galilee, they found an archaeology, they found a nice piece of liquor, expensive one. And they also found out that probably that liquor was in a very rich man's place. And they found through research that Jesus had been in that house. Which goes on to say that Jesus had good, rich friends. Jesus doesn't have a problem if you have money. So maybe the story that Jesus says kind of throws people off. And so Jesus tells the story that's so beautiful. That's why, remember I told you, I'm not going to defend Jesus because he's using two terms that kind of throws us off. Look at the story. If you open your Bibles, keep your Bibles open. I'm just going to quickly look through the story with you. I'll keep it short. Just bear with me. Just open it in chapter 16. It says, then Jesus said to the disciples, there was a rich man who had a manager. When he said rich man, probably everybody's ears got perked up, right? They want to listen to him. And then it says, and the charges were brought to him that this man was squandering. Charges. I don't think it could be false charges. It's like a conspiracy theory, isn't it? Somebody came and said, hey, the steward is making money out of you. So it says charges, so it could be a conspiracy theory. Or probably he was doing the right thing, isn't it? And then look at what it says. And he was squandering his property. The story that goes before is the story of the prodigal son. What did the prodigal son do? Did he keep his dad's money safe? No. Is it right? So probably if you see it from there, maybe the story is about the same idea that the steward was a prodigal and he was squandering the money. But the Greek word is not squandering. The Greek word is that he diversified his owner's property. If you have an investment banker with you, if you go and take and show your portfolio, if he looks at your portfolio, the first thing that he will look at it and say, why are you putting all your money into one thing? Diversify it, isn't it? Because if you lose one, you'll gain another. If you put all of it, bad investment. So actually this guy, the steward, was not a bad guy. He was wanted to spread the master's risk. Smart guy, isn't it? I think he's very smart. He wants to make more money for his master. So he squandered it, that's what it says, right? And so he summoned him and said to him, what is this that I hear about you? Give me an accounting of your management because you cannot be a manager any longer. Then the manager said to himself, what will I do that my master is taking away the position from me and I am not strong enough to dig and I am ashamed to beg? Like today, even then, it's an honor and shame society. Why do we tell our children not to do the wrong thing? It's a shame that brings on your family, isn't it? Why do we tell them do the right thing? Because it brings honor into your family, isn't it? Why did Epstein take away his life? Because if he gets caught, it's a big shame. That's what he's saying. If I get caught, I'm not strong enough. And I cannot go beg because guess what? I've lived in a palatial house. I've got enough money. But if I get caught, guess what? I have to beg. It's a shame that will fall on my family. And so he calls and he makes a very smart move. He calls one of those debtors and says, hey, come and say, how much do you owe? 100? Make it 50. 50% discount. I will take it, isn't it? On Friday, we went to a place to buy something. And this friend of mine argued for 50%, 15% discount for something that we bought. Who doesn't want discount? So the guy gave 50%, isn't it? And then he calls another one. He says, how much do you owe? Yeah, this one. I give you 20%. He takes it, isn't it? After he does that, look at what he says. He said, then he asked another, and then he said, take your bill. Look at the verse 8. And his master commended the dishonest manager because he acted shrewdly. Jesus, it's from your mouth that you're talking about dishonest manager? That you can get you can do dishonest things and get away with it? Isn't it? I don't want to defend Jesus this morning, but let me offer you what scholars say. Oftentimes, stewards who are given this one will make more money. For example, remember the story of Zacchaeus. What does Zacchaeus say? He says, well, God, if I have defrauded somebody, I will give them half, but if it's the poor, I'll give four times more. Because in Roman Empire, they will ask you to collect $10, you will go collect 20, keep 10 to yourself and give the 10 to the Roman Empire, isn't it? So maybe this guy, even though dishonest is an adjective that is attached to him, he knew that it was in the wrong, is it right? So what he says to them, I will forego my profit. I will forego my profit because after this, when I get out, you will be nice to me. Smart, isn't it? That's what Jesus is saying. He says he acted shrewdly. And then Jesus says something so beautiful. He says, the people outside of the church, who we call people of the world, sometimes act shrewdly, and we need to learn lessons from them. All of you are called children of the light. And so we look outside and we say, what? That is children of the world. They don't have anything for us to offer. But Jesus says something else. He says, sometimes the children of the world can give you better ways of doing things. Isn't it? Look at Warren Buffett. The way he has invested his money. I don't know if this is true, but somebody told me if he had not invested his money into Goldman Sachs, there are many people who would have gone jobless. It's one thing to have your money and it's one thing to give it away. I admire Bill Gates, a man who's got billions of money, but his willingness to give away so much of it. Sometimes we got to learn from the ways of the world. Maria tells me of her boss, who keeps time so well. For even when his time for lunch is only half an hour, they exactly take half an hour. Because he says, these are time that God has given us, isn't it? I don't think he's a Christian. We call them children of the world, isn't it? The man whose children of the world have greater responsibility, greater way of doing things. And Jesus says, learn from them. And look at that, and then he says, and therefore I tell you, make friends by means of dishonest wealth. Again, Jesus, why do you use the word dishonest? Why can't you say just use the wealth, isn't it? This is another explanation. This is my last point and I'll close. During Jesus' time, there was very limited wealth. It's not like the way we have surplus now. Everybody has a lot of money, isn't it? Sometimes I drive around and I see these palatial buildings. I wonder where do these guys get the money from? Palatial houses. We have more money now. But during Jesus' time, there was limited money. I don't know if you heard Amos reading. What does Amos says? Hey, you have sold the poor for a pair of sandals, isn't it? The reason why I say that is, if you want to get wealthy, you have to exploit somebody. If Shankar wants to get wealthy, he has to exploit Barbie. It's dishonest, isn't it? That's what Jesus was saying. People became wealthy during that time because they had to exploit somebody. It had to be wealth that was dishonest. And Jesus says, use that money for the extension of God's kingdom, which I don't think it's the right thing to do, but anyway. And then Jesus goes on to say, if you are faithful in a few things, God will keep you faithful in many things. I think Lino preached a great sermon, isn't it? I think she preached a great sermon. I don't think God is about big things. God is not about big things. Oftentimes, we want big crowds, we want a bigger building, we want a larger facility. But if we are not faithful in the small things that God has given us, how will God bless us with big things? I think God is looking for faithfulness in the small things of life. And then Luke closes by saying, you cannot serve God and mammon. You cannot multitask. You cannot have this and that. You got to choose one. For Jesus, he knew from the depth of his heart, the one thing that will stand in our way of serving God is not your family, not your children, not anything else. It's money. That's simple as that. The famous church father, Augustine, he says, God gave us people to love and money to use. And he says, because of the fall, we love money and we use people. Remember, I told you when I started off this series, what did I tell you? I used two theological words. I said orthodoxy and orthopraxy. Orthodoxy is the right belief. Orthopraxy is the right practice. I don't think people outside of AICC will know us by what we believe. Is that right? People outside of AICC will know us by what we do with what we believe. Are you with me? People outside who we call the children of the world will only know us by what we do with what we believe. If God has given us those things to be faithful in small, guess what? God expects those things. Good disciples are known by how faithful they are. When Mother Teresa at the very end of her life somebody asked her the question, so you've been successful? She said, no, I've been faithful. Is that right? Folks, people outside will know us by how faithful we are with the small and big things that God has entrusted to us. I'm just going to close with prayer. Oftentimes, we think that God requires a lot of money from us. Good stewards are people who, first of all, they understand that what they have is not their own. Good stewards know that it belongs to somebody and they are called to only manage. What you have, what God has blessed you, is not your own. I know you worked hard, but that's not your own. God, in an amazing way, has blessed you. Offer those things to God. And oftentimes, again, we think God requires of our money. God requires of you. Your hands, your feet, your eyes, your heart. That's what He requires of you. Doesn't require big things. Small things, if you will be faithful, God will honor you. God, we thank you for this morning as we humbly bow before you. As we humbly bow before you, and we offer the simplest and the ordinary things of life into your hands. And I know you will take it and you will use it. As a church, oh God, teach us to be faithful in the things that we do, so that when time comes, we You call us good and faithful servant. We thank you. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Take my hands and let them move at the impulse of thy love. Take my feet and let them be swift and beautiful for thee. Swift and beautiful for thee. Take my voice and let me sing, always only for my King. Take my lips and let them be filled with messages from thee, filled with messages from thee. Take my silver and my gold, not am I good withhold. Take my hands and let them use every part thou shalt choose, every part as thou shalt choose. Take my love, my Lord, I pour at thy feet its treasure store. Take myself, my life will be ever only all for thee, ever only all for thee. Take my will and make it thine. It shall be no longer mine. Take my heart, it is thine own. It shall be thy royal throne. It shall be thy royal throne. Take my will and make it thine. It shall be no longer mine. Take my heart, it is thine own. It shall be thy royal throne. It shall be thy royal
God, we thank you for calling us to be your stewards. And this amazing earth that you created, oh God, and all that is in it, it belongs to you. And God, we are just called to be stewards of the great resources, oh God. This morning, we offer our hands, our feet, our eyes, our whole being, and even our hearts, oh God. May it become your royal throne. And to that, God, we come into you and we send you with God's blessing. Go with this into this week with the presence of God in your life. And now may the peace of God, the love of Christ, the fellowship and the communion of the Holy Spirit be with each one of us this day and forevermore.
Amen.